to our weekly webinar for the Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem. We've been doing this the past few weeks to provide our entrepreneur support providers with additional information, insight, and opportunity to talk with some experts so that they can share that information with their clients and the entrepreneurs and small businesses that you work with. Today, well, in the past, we had the very first workshop or webinar we had was with Earl Gregorich with the SBDC, the Clemson SBDC, and he talked about the SBA loans. The next one was about the legal issues or the legal classifications around the Emergency Family Leave Act and the different classifications related to that, presented by Michael Nail. And then this week, we are very excited to have 4 different or alternative lenders to your traditional banks and your traditional SBA lenders talking about other sources of capital than just the government money or the SBA money. And then next week, we will have Scott Patterson with Core Financial Resources talk about the tax implications from the CARES Act and how to use that within businesses, how to account for it, how to prepare for paying back the loans and any deferred taxes. So that will be next week. So we're very excited about that. And then, of course, as always, we want to thank our sponsors. We have Ogletree Deacons, Trejo Corporation, Furman, and Intellinet that make it possible for us to be here. And then also Justine Allen, who manages our technology, which really makes it possible for us to be here. And then, as always, Dean Hebel, who's got the great ideas that says, y'all need to be here. so thanks to you. And then today, our format will be to have each of our panelists, of which we have 4, talk a little bit about what they do and how to support businesses and entrepreneurs during this time. And then we will have Q&A afterwards. So we will have Brendan Budimer with South Carolina Community Loan Fund. We'll have Skylar Jackson with the Carolina Foothills Federal Credit Union. We will have Tammy Hoy Hawkins with Community Works, and then also Julie Franklin with Liske. And you may not have heard about Liske, so we're excited that Julie will be here to tell you about that today. So I'm going to start with, and questions. If you do have questions, we have a new way to do questions. If you will look at the bottom of your screen, you will see that there's the Q&A, little quote bubbles, I guess that's what you call them. If you would just click on that and type in your questions, then we will read your questions out after the fact, or after everyone has, the panelists have talked. You can use the chat function, but we're trying to use the Q&A. And Dean is on here to help me manage this technical stuff. So we'll muddle through together. But we're getting pretty good at this now. All right, so I'm ready to turn it over to Brendan Budimer with South Carolina Community Loan Fund and have him tell you about what they're doing now. All right, so Brendan, thank you.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you, Ten at the Top, for giving us this forum. I think this is going to be very useful. My organization is South Carolina Community Loan Fund. We're based in Charleston. Our founder is actually on this call, although she's with a different CDFI now, with Tammy. And we are not an SBA lender. We are a community development financial institution, a CDFI. We are essentially charged to go where banks can't go, but each of the 4 CDFIs that are on this call have a different area of focus and a different way of doing the work, the mission-based work that we all do. So I think it's a great opportunity to share because we all have resources and we all are in business to lend. And I think we're all uniquely situated to address a lot of the issues that we're all facing right now. So South Carolina Community Loan Fund, we have 4 main lending programs in a perfect world. in a pre-COVID-19 world. We work around housing, small business lending, community facilities, and then healthy food retail. In addition to that, we also, when we have an allocation, work in the new market tax credit field. So those are the 4 areas plus the new markets that we work in. We lend between $10,000 and $1 million is generally our ballpark. We typically like to start a little higher at around 50,000, but especially given the situation right now, we recognize that small loans may be more appropriate for people than larger ones, and that's okay. We also play, all 4 of us play well together, so we're not afraid to refer people out to another organization if there's a better opportunity there. But typically speaking, we do loans from 10,000 to $1 million. We will finance startups. We work with nonprofits, for-profits, and municipalities. There are not a lot of restrictions on what we do, other than we don't lend to sin businesses. So, liquor stores or vaping stores or kinds of businesses that we wouldn't be focused on particularly. But pretty much everything else we would at least like to take a look at. We want to make sure that we're reaching out to low and moderate income communities are our primary function. But if you're not bankable, then we're certainly open to having a question and answer with you and sort of determine what works for you. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details because I think it's more important that we keep it quick and respond to answers. But I will say, as we are not part of the CARES Act, CDFI industry was left out of that. Working off of the money that we have to lend right now, we are working on a working capital program related to COVID-19 impacts. And we're going to roll that out to our current borrowers in April, at the end of the month, and then probably mid-May for new borrowers. And that'll be a working capital program with a pretty focused and streamlined process. It'll be, I think at this point, up to $75,000 with about probably a 2 to 3 year repayment. And that'll be a very specific program designed strictly for working capital. But if you're still looking to acquire something, if you're in the process of doing something with a bank already and then they pull back, if you've got something attached to real estate or need to look at other kinds of needs, we're still very much open for business and happy to talk about that with you. And Aaron, unless there's something else you want me to get into, I will note you can see on the screen, if you want to reach out to me, my number is there, my email is there. And you can also go to sccommunityloanfund.org and /borrow to get a little bit more on our borrowing programs and what we're looking for, and fill out a loan inquiry form if you're interested.
All right, Brendan, thank you very much. That was a very good overview, and we will get into more questions later on. So I'm very pleased now to introduce Skylar Jackson. He is with Carolina Foothills Federal Credit Union, if I said that right. And he's going to talk about the kinds of things that his credit union is doing. Skylar?
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, good. Hope all are staying safe out there. I want to thank Dean and Aaron and Justine for having me today. Glad to be on and try to answer some questions and get some information out there. As Aaron said, I'm with Carolina Foothills, and I'm the business development officer. I work directly with our business members, our business clients at the credit union. Carolina Foothills is a full-service financial institution. So in a way that differs from Brendan, we actually serve our members, consumer and business members, on in terms of loan products and deposit services. So we do have those capabilities as well. We are a credit union that's very involved within the community, much like the other CDFIs on the call today. We work closely with our local partners, and that's a big part of what we do. our goal is to help our members really succeed in their financial lives, whether it be on the consumer or business side. So we kind of want to develop our members and help them with their needs, whether that be on the consumer or business side. Some other things that we do is we provide counseling, financial counseling for our members, which are both, again, on the consumer and business side. We offer business coaching for our entrepreneurs that are starting businesses, that are in the planning stages and that may be in the growth stages, that just need a little push to get to the next level. So we do a lot of that. In terms of membership for our credit union, as long as you live, work, worship, or attend school in the upstate area, you're eligible to become a member. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I'm just happy to be a resource for you. And I know Brendan touched a little bit on the SBA, and I know Tammy might have some things to say after me. But in terms of that, we are not directly taking applications for the PPP program, but we have provided an avenue for our members and non-members as well to apply for any assistance that they might need. We've got a link down there at the bottom that you can check out if you need to. Like I said, Tammy might have some other options for you, and we've kind of been in communication with her and some others. But for now, this may provide you a resource where you can at least look into it and apply. So I wanted to provide that there. You've got my contact information. Happy to answer any questions anyone has. And again, just thanks for letting me be here.
Great, very good. Thank you so much, Skylar.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see a different type of lender up there, credit union, and it's nice to know that we have that anyone in the upstate, not anyone, but those who live, worship, work in the upstate can be members of your credit union. I also want to remind folks, if you have questions, to please type them into the Q&A box. And then also I'm going to have a few, so please do that as well. Now I'm pleased to introduce Tammy Hoy Hawkins, who's with Community Works, and they are always doing very interesting things to support our entrepreneurs and emerging business owners. So Tammy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Making sure I wasn't on mute. So, well, hello everyone. It's so great to be with you today. I'm glad to be on this panel with my fellow community development financial institutions. As Brendan and Skylar mentioned, we are very different than your traditional financial institutions. We are very mission-based. So in many cases, we're serving the most underserved or underrepresented clients. Many cases, we serve predominantly either low-income or low-income households or communities, or in particular, and I know here at Community Works as well as the other nonprofits on the line, we serve predominantly minority and women-led businesses. So I think over almost 70% of our clients at Community Works are people of color-led businesses. And so in many cases, we're serving folks that may not be getting resources through traditional financial institutions as well. Again, not unlike Brendan and Skylar, we are focused not only on small business lending. We do lending as low as $5,000 through our Express Lending program. We are an SBA micro lender, so we do a lot with some of the smaller entrepreneurs and very micro businesses, some folks that are just sole proprietors or very small 2 and 3 employee, hair salons, lifestyle businesses, all the way up to restaurants and larger businesses as well. We also, we are an SBA Community Advantage lender. So we are eligible to help apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. We actually were not certain as of last week. We just learned that we were eligible. The PPP program comes under the 7A program under SBA. Community Advantage was a special program where a certain amount of people could be certified, and so only a handful of us CFIs are Community Advantage lenders. And so Our coaches have been doing similar to Skylar. We have been working with our existing borrowers to one, stabilize their businesses. And so we've done some loan modifications for existing borrowers, not 60-day deferred payments. So just kind of trying to stabilize businesses. And then we have been setting up 30-minute coaching sessions to educate folks not only about the Paycheck Protection Program, but also the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which I know you guys went over those programs on a recent call with our friends at the SBDC and the differences between those programs. And so our coaches are trying to evaluate which program is the best for each individual. In addition, for our small businesses or our existing small businesses or new small businesses, we do have a Community Works, a couple products in case folks don't qualify for the EIDL or the Paycheck Protection Program. We're going to be offering up to $10,000 lines of credit for small businesses and up to $50,000 lines of credit for nonprofit partners as well. And again, we can talk more about that through Q&A and other resources as well. In addition to our small business lending, we also here at Community Works do coaching, a lot of financial literacy coaching, financial wellness coaching, but we do a lot with affordable housing as well, working with nonprofit and for-profit affordable housing developers. I will say there's a lot of real estate projects that are still in the pipeline. I think Brendan can probably speak to that. There's still a huge need for affordable housing, and so we are seeing projects continuing to move forward, which I think is positive because we know that housing will be critical not only in the short term, but in the long term. So that's a key aspect of what we do, up to $750,000 in lending to affordable housing projects as well. And similar to Skylar, we're not a depository institution. We are a loan fund, but we do work with consumers. So we do a lot with predatory, anti-predatory lending type products, trying to get folks out of high cost, small dollar payday loans. We offer here at Community Works up to $1,500 in consumer loans to try to help consolidate high cost debt. And we partner with several folks on this call, but also with Self-Help Credit Union. We used to have a credit union, Community Works Credit Union, that we merged recently with Self-Help Credit Union. So in some cases, we work closely with them. And then, as Skylar mentioned, we also work on referrals to Carolina Foothills as well. And so, again, to Aaron's point, we're trying to be an alternative resource. We find in some cases, some of our small businesses don't have trusted relationships with financial institutions. Some of them are fearful of banks. I think many folks have heard about the underbanked and the unbanked. So a lot of those businesses don't have banking relationships. And so we really, as community development mission lenders, we try to fill that gap and make sure that folks have the coaching and the resources that they need to support their businesses and also to make good decisions. One of the things that I've also been trying to educate people on is with some of these programs coming from the CARES Act as well as the EIDL program, is some of the predatory online business services that people are starting to see come across their email. You should not have to pay for help in applying for these programs. SBA is going to pay the financial institutions and is going to pay the organizations to help you apply. So just be wary, and if you're working with clients, make sure that they're wary of those online services, kind of saying, come get your government money now and repay us later. And so that's another area in terms of advocacy that we're focused on here, is just trying to make sure that people get into good products that aren't going to be predatory. So I'll be open for questions, but thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Tammy. That was very interesting, and I'm glad that you brought up the point about the predatory issues, because that's we're going to see more and more of that. Before we move
on my slide there's some ways to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, similar to our other organizations, and up-to-date information about what we're doing, whether it be COVID-19 or other resources. So thank you.
Oh, good. Tammy, thank you for mentioning that as well. Before we move on to Julie, I'd like to go back to Brendan and Skylar and have y'all explain in just a smidge more detail who your optimal customer is. And because y'all work directly with the end user, whereas Julie tends to work more with the support providers themselves. So Brendan, tell us, who is your first best type customer?
Right. So we are statewide, particularly on business. Our rule of thumb is, if you can get a loan from a bank, you don't want a loan with us. We're not, none of us are prohibitively expensive. We're not a mezzanine financier or anything like of that nature, but we're really there to serve the people who can't get bank lending. So if you can get a bank loan, it's probably going to be less expensive than coming through us. And it's also going to allow us to go out and serve people who really can't get bank financing. So for business, that's our number one sort of rule of thumb. And with the other programs, it tends to be more often than not nonprofits that we work with for housing and facilities.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and
Yes.
sorry,
Go ahead,
Aaron.
Skyler.
Yep, and for us, yeah, at Carolina Foothills, we really we don't, our customer, our member, really similar to Brendan's. If you're not bankable, or even if you are, we may be a good option as an alternative to a bank. One being, we have all the resources. We do a number of different things in terms of lending for our businesses. We do commercial real estate, equipment. We get you started as, from your startup all the way, to existing businesses based on your needs. So we're kind of one of those full service lenders when it comes to businesses, and also provide those account services that you need. So if you've worked with a bank in the past and you've worked with a credit union, you'll really understand the differences between the two. We really try to make doing business with us easy. And as far as cost and things like that, we are very competitive with the banks as far as that goes. And really with credit unions, as members, we try to give back in different ways to you by, looking at lower rates and different things to kind of help our members out. So we don't really have a niche other than, let's understand your business and find the best way we can to help you.
And I'll just add, Aaron, to that. I think the other component of us as kind of mission lenders is, in many cases, we may be the first opportunity for businesses or individuals to get financing. In some cases, several of our clients may have been turned down for credit from a financial institution. Maybe the collateral's not exactly right. We're not judging folks on their credit score per se. We're looking at their track record, their business, that we're looking at all kinds of aspects of character. And so in many cases, we're helping folks get into the mainstream financial institution. So they may be starting with us, and then long-term, we are getting them into a financial relationship with, whether it be a credit union or a bank. So a lot of times we're that first stop.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks, y'all, for explaining that a little bit more. I appreciate that. So Julie, I'm happy to turn it over to you now. We are excited that you're here to explain about Liske. Liske is new to the Upstate from this fall, and Julie's going to introduce it to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel. So yes, Liske is also a community development financial institution, and I would echo everything that my colleagues have said about CDFIs and our focus and our mission, and the people in our community that we intend to serve. I would also say that Liske is one of the largest CDFIs in the country. So we're sort of CDFI on steroids. We were founded in 1979 by the Ford Foundation. Liske Upstate, South Carolina opened up in September of last year, and we are one of 37 local offices around the country. We also have a rural program that is a national program that is located in various places, including down in the Santee area of our state. We're known for, Liske is known for aggregating and deploying capital. We serve as an intermediary, we convene community partners, we provide technical assistance, and we bring some of the national program best practices to the various communities that we work in. We also are engaged in policy and advocacy. Brenda mentioned the CDFI being left out of the CARES Act, and that is something that our policy and advocacy group is working on at the national level with our other partners to see if there's a way that we can rectify that situation. As Aaron mentioned, Liske focuses a good bit on building the capacity of local organizations, supporting the end users as opposed to supporting doing direct programming. We use our local resources to try to leverage our national resources. That was the whole reason for Liske being created 40 years ago, was to create an avenue to be able to access the national resources and then bring it back down into the local communities and to support the community development corporations, the local CDFIs, and other nonprofits and local governments that are working within the community and economic development space. That said, we do provide some direct lending. We are a CDFI. At our national level, our loans tend to focus more on the capital improvements and real estate development. We do have some working capital loans. Because we have such a substantial balance sheet, we do have the ability to make fairly large loans compared to maybe some of our local peers. Our loans tend to start around 100,000 and come on up to $6 to $8 million. And oftentimes we will partner with our local CDFI colleagues on those projects. We also do have an SBA affiliate called Emito, and we will also refer small businesses out to Emito if they need, if that's a good fit for them. Our local offices also work with community partners on various programs that support small businesses, and that is based on what the community needs and wants, and where Liske can bring added value. And so it differs from community to community. My office is still very new, and we're still looking for, we're having conversations with various people in the community and looking for partners to help us understand where is the biggest need and where we can, as I said, bring that added value.
Great. Very good, Julie. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's very exciting that South Carolina now has a Liske office here to support all the initiatives that we have.
I'm excited. I mean, Liske is, I've been in South Carolina or Greenville and the upstate. I've spent a lot of time in Spartanburg. I've been here for about 30 years. So Liske is new. I'm not new, and I'm excited to be able to bring that kind of resource to our community.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you. We don't have any questions in our Q&A.
No,
so,
we have several, Aaron. And let me start with the first one. And this is a good question because there's folks who are kind of in this realm are very familiar, but the question is, have you all noticed that most startups and small businesses are aware of both your ongoing and most especially the new programs that are available right now? And if not, what are you doing to try to make sure that there is a awareness of the help that's out there right now?
Well, I think, Dean, I did respond a little bit to that question. I mean, I think, and I'm so thankful for 10 at the Top and this group hosting this webinar. I mean, I think I've been on a webinar at least once a week for the past couple weeks, and I think that the organizations like yourself that are pulling these together and hosting these have given us an opportunity, on this call to not only share kind of immediate information about COVID-19 and federal response, but also to share more broadly what community development financial institutions are, how they're a resource, how they've, as Liske has been around for 40 years, some of our organizations have been around for 10 to 15 years or longer in the local community, and that you have this local resource available to you. And many of you folks may hear about us, one-off for a different program, but I just applaud organizations like this that are hosting these, and I think several of the nonprofit alliance groups, Together SC, some of the SBDCs and others are hosting these types of virtual conversations, so we can, one, uplift the short-term relief opportunities that we want to avail from the federal government, but also many of us on this call will be around for the long-term recovery. And so we know that some of these immediate resources are really stabilizing businesses, but organizations like Community Works, South Carolina Community Loan Fund, Liske, the credit union, are going to be established organizations that are going to focus on supporting businesses throughout the next 12 to 18 months or however long it takes. And so I think that's really been helpful. I know we all use social media and are using, we've been working, I think several of us, on kind of op-eds as well from a media standpoint. I'm just trying to get the word out more about these resources.
So Tammy, I know you said before we got on with everyone that you were working with some of the folks who were part of the Start Me program that you had done in Spartanburg, and I'm sure you're working with some of your existing clients and things, but overall, have you seen a jumping in calls for assistance and requests since this has started, or is it pretty steady compared to normal?
Yeah, we've seen accelerated requests. I think a couple reasons why. One is, we have encouraged our businesses as well as other businesses to work with their traditional financial institution for some of these programs. Obviously, the EIDL program is an SBA direct. I think the application is more streamlined now, so I think it's been easier for people, but our coaches have helped people with that. The PPP program, as you know, has to go through a certified SBA lender. I think initially banks were quite overwhelmed. I don't know if folks understand the number. So SBA usually through banking partners does about $30 billion a year in SBA loans. So to ask banks and partners like us on the phone to do $349 billion in a week is a lot. So I think a lot of folks were eager to get access to those resources and trying to find out ways to do that. And so in many cases, banking partners may have turned them down initially or had caps. And so we at Community Works saw a lot of calls coming to us how we could help them maneuver through the process. And the other thing is we're seeing requests, Dean, some people just need $8,000. Some people, our salons and our small restaurants, they really only need, $10,000, $15,000 to make it through the next few months. Where some of the larger, I think, businesses, are asking for millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're seeing a lot of those really, really small micro businesses needing assistance from CDFIs like us. Great.
Brendan and Skylar, I'll Brendan first and then Skylar ask you that same question. Have you seen a jump in calls since this started, and how is that helping overall with getting the word out about your services and products?
Yeah, so our immediate response was we reached out to all of our borrowers and we surveyed them to try to figure out what their needs were. We felt like we had to make sure we were taking care of the people already who had borrowed from us, who were rightfully concerned about sort of where they stood with a loan outstanding. And so we focused on that at first, but we've since reached out and are doing a lot of things that Tammy's talking about. We're not an SBA lender, so for us, probably in the last week, I've started getting calls from people who, for one reason or another, either can't get through PPP or They're concerned about the time it's going to take to do that, to start a conversation with us about possibly working with us. And in particular from nonprofits, especially, gotten several in the last week. So that's really what we've seen. And again, we're taking the same approach as far as social media and then, you know, our newsletters and things like that, but also doing these kind of platforms, which again, like Tammy said, Dean, this is really, I know this is why y'all exist, but it's also a great, you know, I hope people understand how important 10 at the top can be as far as being a source for an amazing amount of resources. So that, I'll stop there, but I mean, we're really starting to see it now as where the SBA pipeline is kind of jammed up and people are looking to us now.
Great. And Skylar, I'll let you add to that.
Yes, sir. So same as Brendan, within our internal membership, our business clients, we reached out to them just to check on them, see how they're doing, try to answer as many questions as we can. I know that even at this point, we have a lot more questions than answers in a lot of areas, but with everything happening so quickly, we wanted to make sure that we were going to do our best to give them pertinent information to help them. And so as Brendan was saying, we kind of did a inventory check on our businesses and let them know, we're here to help, whether that be, deferring payments, depending on what their needs are for the time being, but then also really researching what we can do with this PPP program and with the EIDL program, and really acting quickly the best way we can to get them the resources that they need. And that's one of the reasons why we looked into the program that we currently have with the link, to kind of get people in front of some resources that could really help them get going now. Currently, we're still trying to, as Tammy said, we're still trying to go through that process in seeing other ways that we can help enhance what we're doing now. But with everything happening quickly, we're really doing our best, and these webinars are great to come together, learn what others are doing, and see if there's ways that we can really work together to help our business members and our business customers. So
great. I had a question, and Tammy, you touched on this, and I think others did as well, but regarding the predatory lending, it's already, it's around all the time, and in situations like this, it tends to ramp up even more. Is there, through any of y'all's national organizations or work, are there campaigns, and are they, has there been discussion about kind of ramping those up to make sure people are careful and aware of the predatory lending components? Because I think that is going to be, I've heard, we've all heard about the Zoom calls being kidnapped or hijacked by people, and same with emails. There's just so many things like that that are in crisis. Unfortunately, people find or try to find ways to take advantage of people. What are y'all doing, or what are some things that can be done, maybe collectively, around the awareness around the predatory lending?
Yeah, I'll start and folks can jump in. I think one of the greatest resources that we have, and maybe some folks are on the call, but our United Ways, both the Piedmont and in Greenville with the VITA sites and some of the tax preparatory sessions that we already have, is one way that I think we can educate folks, both consumers and small businesses, because in many cases, folks are coming to those sites to get help. I would also say programs like Start Me, Village Launch, and some of the organizations that many of you are involved with, using those mentors, those financial mentors and business coach mentors, to educate folks on not, some of those fintech businesses that they're getting emails from, just to be cautious of that. I know that, like, again, through the VITA sites, even consumers now with this $1,200 per house or $2,500 per household, direct payment from the IRS. I know they're really trying to make sure that's an ACH kind of direct payment, but in many cases, we're trying to make sure people don't go to these rapid refund places, you know, and making sure that they're educated on that. I know that's kind of where a couple of us at the CDFI industry, we've been meeting about once a week to talk about like op-eds and using the media, whether that be our Greenville News or the Post and Courier or whoever in the local area, to kind of maybe put some op-eds out there, just so folks can, they're hearing so much noise that they can maybe just hear a little bit about what to be wary of in terms of that. So those are just some things that I suggest.
Great. Aaron?
Yeah, well, I do have one question, and as I see there's one, we have our participants come from most of the counties around our region, and so which means that they're mainly from non-Greenville and Spartanburg. So with people on the webinar today who may have entrepreneurs in their communities who've never met you, who are not members of the credit union, who are not already in one of your programs, what's the best way for them to, I guess, on-ramp into or get introduced or you know, begin a discussion with you? And Brendan, would you like to start?
Sure. With the slide that I had with our contact information, if you go to our website, I think that's the best way to get started. Anybody is also, my phone number's on there. You're welcome to call, email, or text me, and I'm happy to have a conversation. You know, we are really happy to take that time to have that, even if it's just a quick conversation, to sort of vet people and make sure they're comfortable working with us, because we're not a traditional lender like people would expect, I guess. So, but I think that's the best way, either that or through our website.
Okay. All right, good. Brendan, thank you. Skylar? Skylar, what's the best way?
Same as Brendan. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the best way is to, as Brendan was saying, my contact information is there. Email or call me directly. I'm glad to answer any questions that you have. The website is there, that kind of points out kind of everything that we do and what we can help you with. But I'd be glad to have a conversation with you and get you pointed in the right direction, and whether it's me helping you directly or one of my counterparts. One other thing I wanted to mention is I do have a partner that really specializes in the business coaching and the planning phase, and we do have a business micro lending program. So that's something that you can research on our website or ask me directly. But Scott Welchel is my partner here, and he does a great job too. So just reach out to us. I'm glad to answer and help any way we can.
Good. Thank you. Good. And Tammy?
Yeah, so I think because folks are members of 10 at the Top and members of the entrepreneur ecosystem here, one of the things that we could do possibly, Aaron, is we've got a link that we call Callen D. I don't know if anybody uses Callen D. We've been working with our partners to set up 30-minute coaching appointments. And maybe as a follow-up, I can get with our team here. We have 2 portholes that we're doing for coaching sessions. One is with existing borrowers first, to Brendan's point, trying to make sure that we've stabilized our existing borrowers. The second is potentially new clients or new folks who might want to work with us or learn more. And so folks can schedule 30 minutes with one of our coaches. So I'm happy to try to set that up with you, Aaron and Dean, as a follow-up.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
That's great. And Aaron, if I could add too, there was a question or a comment about the potential, you know, we, as you know, the ecosystem and most of the folks on these calls are folks who work directly with entrepreneurs. And there was a question or comment about having sessions directly for entrepreneurs. And what I would offer is, if you know, those of you who are the service providers who work with folks, if you want to get with Aaron or Justine or myself, we're happy to work with you to have a call with any of these folks or others who are in this realm or involved in any of these components directly for your entrepreneurs. You know, our goal with these is to give you the information and the tools to be able to reach out to your entrepreneurs, but we're happy to help you if it would be of value to you to have additional contact from these folks with directly to your entrepreneurs. Aaron, is that okay? Or
yes, that is. And you know, just to amplify that a little bit, the folks who have been coming to the Entrepreneur Support Provider quarterly meetings, and I see many of you on our attendee list, we're all fairly familiar with each other and very capable of sending you to an appropriate resource within I guess a few touches. So, you know, we're here and can definitely, but also feel free to ask anybody else who's in this field, because they can more than likely help you too. But and the operative being, be sure to ask, because we're all here, and if you've not participated, this is the time to jump in.
Aaron,
Yes.
I would also say that if there's any of our community partners who are looking at trying to either set up or expand a program, and they would like to brainstorm on how Liz might be able to help support that, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll video chat or have a phone conversation and figure out, you know, what might be a good fit and next steps.
Very good. Thank you, Julie.
So, Aaron, I wanted to ask a question, and a couple of them mentioned this. You know, so obviously none of us have the crystal ball, and we don't know how long and how deep this particular situation is going to be, but we tend to hope at some point things will return back to some level of normal, whatever normal happens to look like. And so I'd ask, I think it was Tammy or someone mentioned, or Brendan mentioned housing as a critical issue. What are some other components of what you do that, you know, maybe have been lost a little bit in this particular crisis, but that are opportunities that long-term can provide support to entrepreneurs and to small businesses that, you know, we should make sure are not lost as we focus specifically on this crisis?
I'm happy to jump in first. So in terms of housing, I mean, I think there is going to be a longer term recovery. I know many folks on the phone know that there has been a eviction stay in South Carolina. Most states are doing that, where there's no evictions over the next, couple months allowed. There's been some banks, and FHA has, kind of helped with the mortgage side of things. I would also, we've encouraged our businesses to, to feel confident to reach out to their landlords if they are renting, space, if it is a brick and mortar space, to ask for similar modifications. Obviously, we know that's a trickle up and down effect with finances, but there's no reason why, if we're modifying our loans, why they can't reach out to their landlords and ask for a modification initially. So those are some just general recommendations that we're telling our businesses. But as it relates to housing, I know there's actually, I'm involved with United Way here, and I know Brendan and others are doing some statewide advocacy, because we think that tenant-based rental assistance is going to be critical in helping folks to stay in housing. There's some federal resources coming down through the Community Development Block Grants and the home funds through HUD. So there will be some additional local resources coming to South Carolina into the local community. So I just would encourage service providers on this call to kind of look out for that. And, certainly we could have at some point another call about that, Dean, if that's something that's of interest. But I think we're trying to do a lot of advocacy also at the state level. One of my concerns is there hasn't been a state relief policy agenda really established, whether that be through Commerce or the chambers or through the State Housing Authority. I know that's something that Brendan at South Carolina Community Loan Fund and Anna have been looking at as well. So I think there's some more work to do on the housing front. I think because of the stay on evictions, the stay on mortgages, and in the next 60 days, I think we've been okay. But at some point, people are going to have to ask for those rents and going to have to ask for those mortgage payments. And I think we have to be prepared for that.
Dean, I also think that as we think about supporting our small businesses, that we need to keep in mind our nonprofit businesses as well, because they play a very critical role in supporting the various infrastructure across the entire spectrum of economic and community development. So I think there's just, as we start thinking about what is the definition of small business, having more of an expanded perspective to include our nonprofits that are working within that space will be, is going to be critical, and providing that support to them as well.
Yes, I know, having been on a number of calls with nonprofits, that this sector is very glad, the nonprofit sector, to have been included, at least 501c3s included in the PPP and the other opportunities. Because you're right, Julie, in the past, in some ways, they were not always included. We have a question: does your target market include Abbeville, Greenwood, and Lawrence counties? I know, Tammy, you guys cover the entire region, and I'm not 100% sure, Skylar, about yours, and Brendan, I think you guys are statewide, so I believe the answer to that is yes. But if you guys could expand on your engagement in Abbeville, Greenwood, and Lawrence counties.
Well, Dan, I'll go ahead and answer that. Right now, our geographic focus in the upstate is the Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson area. Our local offices tend to be focused in the urban areas, and initially that's where we're focusing.
Okay, so that's for Liske.
That's for Liske, yes,
Yeah.
for our Liske Upstate office.
Okay, perfect. And Tammy, you guys cover, do you do work in Abbeville and Greenwood and Lawrence?
Yeah, we do. So we are statewide, and our core focus is the 10-county upstate, but we also have businesses we work with in Richland and Columbia and the coast. But Greenwood's actually a pretty large market of ours. We've done a lot of businesses in Greenwood, and we do have some businesses in Lawrence. I don't know if we have a business we're working with in Abbeville, but we certainly would be open to working with folks there.
Okay, and Skylar, how about you all?
Yes, so primarily upstate, but we do work with folks outside of counties, Abbeville, Lawrence County, Anderson County. We will look at helping people in those areas as well.
Cherokee
Great.
County as well?
Cherokee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And Brendan, you guys are statewide, correct?
That's correct. I cover, and I cover that whole area. So we're arranged by COGs. So I do the Catawba, the Appalachian, the Upper Savannah COG.
So you're all of us.
So Dave from Greenwood, who asked that question, as we said, we'll have everybody's contact information and send it out, the slides, and you're welcome to reach out to any of these folks directly, or connect any of the businesses you work with who might want to you think might be a good target for any of these different opportunities. So we will make sure you have that.
Let me just I want to just add one more thing. As I mentioned, Liske does have a rural program through our national office, and so what we do is we partner with a local nonprofit organization who is the sort of the boots on the ground in that area. And so we have one right now, Santee Lynch's down in the PD area. But if there's an opportunity, if there's an organization that would like to have some conversation about working with Liske in some of these outlying areas in the upstate or anywhere else in this in South Carolina, I'm happy to make that connection with our rural group.
Perfect.
Great.
Well,
Good.
Aaron, I'll turn it back to you. I think that's all the questions. I know we're getting close to the end of our hour.
Yes. Well, good. Well, Dean, thank you for your help with that. And thanks to all of our panelists. Very fascinating. It's good to know that funds are available beyond the SBA funding that's out there, especially with the backlog that everyone is experiencing right now with that, and so much uncertainty. I want to make sure that everyone understands that following this, we will send out an email with links to the recording. as well as a link to the slides so that you can see those. They are also posted on the entrepreneurial, economic and entrepreneurial vitality page of the 10 at the Top website. You'll see there's a link to that on this final slide here. There are also links to the other webinars that we have held. So you can get all that information that way, and there have been quite a few questions about that. We also, Tammy mentioned quite a few other webinars that are going on. The 10 at the Top calendar is posting information like that. Since there aren't many actual get together events, where they have opened up to a lot more of these business and informational and sharing knowledge events or webinars. So if you have anything, please send it to me or to Justine or Dean or any of us at 10 at the Top, and we'll get it posted. If you're looking for something, look at the 10 at the Top Upstate Vibe 365 calendar, and look for the email that the 10 at the Top sends out as well, that has updates on other activities or informational sessions that are going on. And then next week, we do have Scott Patterson, who will be joining us to talk about the tax side of all of this. When we get money, we don't just get it free. And we will have to pay the tax man at some point, sometime in the next year or so. So we need to help our businesses, our entrepreneur clients remember that too, so we don't have another crisis this time next year, another cash flow crisis for them. I see 3 new questions have come in. Dean?
No, they're ones we've already gotten to, so we're
okay. All right, good. All right, well, thank you. And if you have any information that you'd like to know, any webinars you'd like to see, any speakers you'd like to hear, please email me and let me know so that we can organize those. It's easy to do, and we'll be here to help however we can. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Erin.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a great afternoon.
I don't know how to get out.
I'm just shutting it down so it'll kick you out in a second.
I'm trying to figure out how to get out.
I'm stuck in my Zoom call.
Thanks, Justine.
Bye. Thank you.